Death is kind of fascinating, not because I'm secretly a murderer or anything, but because of the mystery of it. We know it's the road all living things will reach, and depending on who you ask, it's either a true end or a new beginning. So that's why it's interesting to see many interpretations of death in media, whether it's someone who can control it or embodies it. Let me analyze 4 different characters who use the concept of death in unique ways, and why they are some of my favorites. And again, I'm not secretly a murderer or anything. Yuko Sakyoji is a ghostly figure who serves as the head of the Hakugokuro, a mystic shrine that overlooks the Netherworld. Known as a ghost princess, she resides in a serene, otherworldly realm, famous for sprawling cherry blossom gardens that attract countless spirits each spring. Though her domain is a peaceful one, Yuko wields a terrifying power, the ability to lead souls to their death. Those who succumb to her power find themselves not in heaven or hell, but in the Netherworld, under her watchful gaze. This gift, if you can call it that, was the reason she chose to end her own life in an attempt to shield others from the burden of her abilities. When she became a spirit, Yuko took on the role of caretaker and ruler of the Hakugokuro, guarding the souls that pass through the Netherworld. Despite the ominous nature of her power, she's a figure of warmth and grace. Her cheerful and friendly personality, combined with an ethereal beauty, makes her disarmingly charming. Though she's a ghost, Yuko's appearance closely resembles that of a human being, and she has a soft and almost cheerful air about her. She's well loved by many, despite the fear her abilities inspire in those who understand the full extent of her power. Yuko's ability to control death is both her greatest strength and her heaviest burden. She can bring about the death of any living being with a near certainty. There is no escape, no resistance. When she decides that someone will die, it is inevitable. However, the nature of her power doesn't mean that she can cause instant death. Rather, she can weave fate in such a way that death is certain, a slow, inescapable march towards the end. The only thing immune to her influence are those who are immortal, such as the Horai immortals. Though her power is formidable, Yuko is not one to wield it recklessly. Her tragic choice to take her own life was driven by the overwhelming fear and responsibility that came with her ability, but she uses her power with great care. She does not use it out of malice or out of petty reasons, and while she can end lives with a thought, she has learned to approach her duties with a calm and almost detached sense of responsibility. Despite this, it's said that she can make death feel gentle, as though it was merely a soft invitation, rather than a violent end. Additionally, Yuko possesses the ability to manipulate spirits of the departed. Even in her mortal life, she had the power to communicate with those and control ghosts, a skill she continues to use as her role as a manager of the Netherworld. She oversees the souls that pass through her domain, ensuring that they stay in the Netherworld or are allowed to remain for as long as necessary. Thanks to this power, she can even extend the stay of the souls from hell, keeping them in her realm for eternity if she so desires. There's also other content related to her, but we don't talk about that.
じゃあまた後で。
The mystic eyes of death perception are one of the most powerful and rare abilities in the Natsuverse, possessed by a selected few, most notably Shikiryogi and Shikitono. These eyes allow their users to see the lines of death that exist in all things. Everything in the universe, living or inanimate, have these invisible lines, representing imperfections and the inevitable end that awaits all things. When activated, the eyes glow blue, revealing jagged red lines on objects, people, and even concepts. These lines are weak points of existence, and when traced, they cause the objects or person to disintegrate. There's no need for force. Simply following the lines with a tool or even a finger causes the target to fall apart. This works on anything from humans to spirits, even if the object is incredibly durable. The mystic eyes don't just cut flesh, they sever the very soul. Cutting a death line accelerates a being's fate, effectively destroying their existence. Once these lines are cut, the person cannot heal, no matter their regenerative abilities. This was demonstrated when Arcuade had to completely remake her body after her death lines were severed. Shikitono's mystic eyes go a step further by allowing him to see and interact with death points, specific concentrated points where death is the most direct and can obliterate not just a body, but a race of beings' existence entirely. entirely. For example, striking the death point of an immortal vampire could destroy their soul permanently, preventing them from transferring to another body. Death points can be found in all things, from physical objects to concepts like momentum, light, and even time itself. Shiki Ryogi's eyes are unique in the way they can also reveal the deathlines of conceptual or invisible things, such as spells, bounded fields, diseases, and even fate. This allows her to cut through things that shouldn't be perceivable or tangible. In a fight, Ryogi sliced through a telekinetic attack and even severed precognition, rendering her opponent blind to the future. Ryogi's eyes can essentially erase anything that has deathlines, regardless of if it's physical or conceptual. Both Shikis grew stronger over time, but Ryogi has the ability to turn her eyes on and off at will, while Shikitono relies on glasses to suppress his abilities. Even if someone were to gouge her eyes out, the effects of the mystic eyes will persist.
Oh man, I can't be late on the first day!
The immortal snail was essentially created as a joke on Reddit, but it's actually pretty terrifying. Basically, you're given the chance to live forever. No aging, no disease, nothing can kill you, except for this one slow, immortal snail. The catch is, will always be following you, and if it touches you, you die. It moves incredibly slow, so you might think you have time to enjoy your immortality without worrying too much, but the snail is always there, always inching along, and eventually one day, no matter how far you run or how well you hide, it's going to catch up to you. So the whole thing becomes a balance of living your life, enjoying eternal existence, but constantly knowing that a snail is out there, and every time you leave a safe space, it's a little riskier. It's like, how much do you enjoy immortality if you're always looking over your shoulder and knowing that there's this bizarrely slow but inevitable doom trailing behind you? The idea gets funny when you imagine yourself strategizing your life, planning around a snail, and trying to outsmart it. Over time, its pursuits might become more intelligent. It could adapt to your moves, learn your attempts to outwit it, and find ways to sneak up on you. Maybe you move to a remote island and escape it, but since this snail is intelligent, it can use a boat or other means to get to the island, or if you build elaborate mazes to trap it, only for the snail to figure out a way around it, silently following the path of least resistance. You might think that this is easy, but the mental toll of knowing they are being hunted by something so relentless, no matter how far you go, would start to wear on you. The question shifts from whether immortality is desirable, or even if it's worth living, with that kind of slow, creeping doom always present. For eons, a mysterious entity drifted through the void, dormant and untouched, until it collided with the Earth during its early, chaotic stages. The impact was catastrophic, threatening to wipe out the planet entirely, but the nature of this entity was beyond anything the universe understood. Its form defied the very laws of physics. The collision tore the being apart, splitting its physical body from its consciousness. The physical remnants of the planet eater shattered and slowly transformed into Earth's moon, while its psyche, an entity known as Nyx, became trapped on Earth. Nyx's psyche was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Described as waves of death, it spread across the planet, seeping into the life forms that inhabited it. These waves were a threat to all living creatures, capable of erasing them entirely. Rather than destroying life outright, Nyx's presence would subtly alter it. In response, Earth's creatures evolved to house the energy of Nyx's deadly waves deep within themselves, creating an intricate mental landscape. The collective unconscious of humanity was born. The deadly waves of Nyx's psyche, now embedded within every living being, took the form as shadows, and Nyx itself became a haunting presence in the hidden depths of the collective unconsciousness. Generations later, a prophecy known as the Fall emerged, foretelling humanity's total annihilation, where every human being will be erased from existence. However, Nyx's essence had also been sealed within a young boy, a last-ditch effort to prevent the world's destruction. But as time passed, the seal weakened, and Nyx was reborn in the form of Ryoji. Ryoji's arrival marked the beginning of humanity's final countdown. Nyx's true nature was reflected in its connection to reverse death arcana. While the death arcana typically represents transformation, cycles, or renewal, the inverse stands for stagnation and finality. Nyx, in its most terrifying form, was the embodiment of stillness, the end of all things. As the climax of his fate drew near, the moon itself began to crack, revealing the massive, glowing red eyes of Nyx staring down upon humanity. Without the sacrifice of the game's protagonist, the world would have succumbed to total extinction, ending humanity's story once and for all. Anyways, what are your favorite interpretations of the concept of death? Let me know in the comments.